It's been a while. I just actually came back from 2 months in Colombia and a little bit in Ecuador. So yeah, 2 months. Crazy, right? Uh, I was there traveling all over the place and visiting family. A little bit background on me. I'm obviously American, but my family's Colombian. I think I've been to Colombia a number of times, and this last time was kind of being out on my own, and I visited family and everything, but I did spend a good chunk of time by myself, just traveling alone. And I was looking up videos on YouTube, about Colombia, like is traveling safe? Is Colombia safe? How are you traveling around? Blah 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 blah. And most of them are just complete rubbish. It's terrible rubbish. The only good one I found was by this woman named Latino Nature, but she's only talking about Medellin. And obviously, there's a whole bunch of cities that people like to visit. So I figured, I traveled to most major cities. The only notable exception being Bogota, but I'll touch on that later. So I felt like talking about traveling in safety Colombia, the truth, is because these other videos are terrible. So the question everyone wants to know is Colombia safe? Is it safe to go to Colombia? This is the way I see it. So Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, and Panama used to be one country called Grand Colombia. So I like to compare them a lot. And I was in Ecuador, so I would know this. If you want to go and see tourist traps, go watch the indigenous people do dances and speak their language or whatever, and go watch the whales, touristy stuff, you go to Ecuador. Ecuador's that kind of place. There's a reason why there's so many expatriates there, and it's a pretty safe country. When I was in Ecuador, it was just a stark contrast to how Colombia was, down to the police. In Colombia, it's you'll see police everywhere. They are all over the place. In Ecuador, they were hard. I had to look, and I remember I was in Vilcabamba, Ecuador, and like you can't even see any cops, and I saw the police station. They were just watching TV, so it's a completely different country. So yeah, if you want to do tourist traps, you go to Ecuador. If you want to get yourself killed, you go to Venezuela. If you're just keeping up with anything going on in Venezuela, you know what I'm talking about. Fix the problem, my doodle. If you want to just get crazy and do whatever you want and not get in trouble, you go to Panama. So Colombia, where does Colombia fit in this? Colombia, I'd say, is a mixture of all three. If you have to keep your eyes out, but you're only gonna get robbed or kidnapped, because it still happens, if you're an idiot. But I met but you'd be surprised, I met a lot of idiots traveling around, foreigners traveling around Colombia during my time there. So you'd be surprised how many people are careless. And it's just because Colombia, you do feel safe, but it's kind of like you feel safe because there's so many police around, whereas in Ecuador you feel safe just because you feel safe. So yeah, that's how I see safety in Colombia. Just don't be an idiot and you'll be fine. And obviously it depends where you go. So I'll get it out of the way. Cartagena, because that's where pretty much everybody goes. Is Cartagena safe? Yes, it is. It is extremely safe. It's probably the safest city in Colombia, and that's why it's a tourist trap. Because that's where everybody's gonna go. So needless to say, you could do anything there. Drug use was ridiculous while I was there. It's so easy to find drugs because the truth of the matter is a lot of people come to Colombia for cocaine, and prostitution's obvious as well. And I was out on a Friday night, and you can see these girls, and it's just obvious. And I saw these girls, and it's like I said, it's obvious that it's prostitution going on. But like there'll be cops there. They can't really do anything because they can't prove anything. Plus, it's kind of like, you know, well, even if they arrest them, what would they do? You know, throw them in prison? Like, yeah, like they're gonna waste resources on that. Um, and I mean, most hotels won't even really check. Um, you know, I was reading like, oh, hotels will check to see who this person is that you're bringing if you into prostitutes, but they don't check. So prostitutes and drug users rampant in Cartagena. But regardless, it's a safe area as long as you're in the old city. If you leave the old city, that's when it gets a little shady. But there's nothing to do outside the old city unless you're trying to go to the beach. But that's where the rich people live. So if you go anywhere past the old the El Castillo, then yeah. But then again, that's the whole thing with don't be an idiot. But okay, so Cartagena's out of the way. What about the rest of Colombia? Well, yes. There's other places. Santa Marta. I didn't go to Santa Marta, but it's basically another Cartagena. Just I think it's smaller. And honestly, that's all there is to do in the coast. Barranquilla, don't even want to go to Barranquilla. There's nothing there. Unless you go in January, and that's when they have that huge festival going on. But Barranquilla is it's kind of a mess, to be honest with you. My father's actually costeño. He's from Barranquilla, but and when I went there, it's just. It's so confusing. I don't know why the streets are so confusing, but and out of everywhere I went in Colombia, I always had if someone dropped me off on like the other side of like Medellin or Pereira, whatever, I'd be like, all right, I'd probably be able to get myself to wherever I needed to go. Barranquilla, I never got a general grasp of where I was. So yeah, just there's nothing really else in the coast outside of Cartagena and Santa Marta, and getting from the coast to the interior is really difficult if you're not taking a plane. But that's another thing, traveling around Colombia. So if you're one of those people who actually wants to go to the interior from Cartagena, you besides taking a plane, you take buses. Buses are all over the place. So what do you need to know about these buses? Well, first off, you need to know the price. Okay? And one thing about Colombians is that they will, I guess it happens everywhere, but if they see you're not Colombian, they'll try to overcharge you. I'm completely fluent in Spanish, but I don't really have a Colombian accent going on. And so, even though I spoke fluent Spanish, they would always try to rip me off. And I called them out on it a few times. The worst that happened is that I was overcharged 5,000 pesos, which is like $2.50. But that was just because I was an idiot and I was trying to get to Popayan really fast, and I didn't bother to look. I mean, it was $2.50, but it still gets annoying. So what you need to do, right, if you're taking these buses, always ask for the price. Before you give them the money, before they say anything, you say, "Cuánto cuesta Medellin?" or something like that, and try, I know it's corny, but try to get a Colombian accent down, because then they won't try to rip you off. I saw so many, in Cartagena, I saw so many Europeans and Americans just get ripped off. It was ridiculous. Yeah. Another thing is that there's different types of buses, okay? Now, I really don't recommend traveling at night. And if you do have to travel at night, take one of the big buses. We're talking like Greyhound buses, if you're American. Greyhound buses, big buses where they won't let people in. Because what a lot of the smaller buses will do is that, to get money along the way, they'll just pick up people, on the road. And at nighttime that can get a little dangerous because they can these people, you don't know who these people are, and they can just rob them out. They come in and just rob the buses. This happens all the time. And there's less traffic out, the police aren't out, and the army is not out. So it happens all the time. So take one of those big buses where they won't let people in. They only let people in at certain locations. Um, yeah. And in regards to these little buses, right? So don't take these little buses out. Don't do it. Um, a lot of times, a lot of people are gonna come in and try to sell stuff like candy or I don't know, magnets. They'll sell anything. Um, and what they'll do is that they'll hand them out, and a lot of times people will take them. A lot of Colombians will take them and just hand them back. So they'll walk around like, oh, it's like 1,000 pesos for this chocolate, blah 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 blah. But if you're a foreigner and they catch on to it, they may try to like, oh, it's a good deal. They might try to talk to you, and let me tell you, it gets annoying after a while. You know, luckily for me, I blended in a lot. Like I said, I blended in pretty well. I mean, I spoke Spanish, and they didn't think I was American. They thought a lot of times they thought I was Argentine, from Argentina, for some reason. But I did see that, and it can get very annoying. So what you should do, this is what I recommend, is just pretend to look out the window, or just say, no, and then they'll understand. They'll be like, whatever, whatever. They're not gonna waste their time unless they thought you were a foreigner. Another thing is I see a lot of videos on YouTube about people traveling, renting out motorcycles. Don't do it. Don't be an idiot. I mean, if you're on the coast, yeah, you can do it. But in the interior, the mountains are ridiculous. I got used to it, but I can see. When I remember when I was a little kid, I'd be terrified because you're going up and down these mountains, and there's no guardrails, So if you go make one wrong turn, this mountain's going off the side of side of a mountain, it's like boom, like boom. So and raining, no, don't do it. And there's a lot of accidents, motorcycle accidents all the time in Colombia, and so it's really dangerous. It's cool. It's like I'd like to do that, but I realize it's just really dangerous. Especially if you're not a Colombian and you can't drive like that. Because there'll be times. There was a situation where I was in a truck, big truck. And we were right behind this guy, this little motorcycle guy. And I just remember thinking to myself, this guy, tripped or something, hit a rock and he just fell off his bike. He's getting run over by this truck and he's not gonna live. At least in a car you got a chance, but motorcycle, no. So don't rent out bikes. Don't do it. Maybe if you're in the coast you can get away with it, but in the interior, don't do it. Especially if it rains, forget it, man. You better just stop wherever you are and wait it out. What else is there? The food and drinking. Well, first off, faucet water in the major cities is pretty safe to drink. I drank it, never got sick. If you're not in a city, or at least in a little town, don't do it. A lot of times it's just rainwater, or they just boil the water. You'll see them. You'll see all these random restaurants. You'll be on the side of a mountain, and there'll be just this random restaurant there out in the middle, kind of in the middle of nowhere, or whatever. Or you see these little enclave of little 10 to 15 houses. Don't drink the water in those areas. In regards to food, I'll be impressed if you don't get sick. Every time I've gotten sick. My stomach actually got used to it this past time, just probably because I was there for so long. But every other time I've gone, I've been sick. Sorry about that. Memory died. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, I don't. It's just they don't really have an FDA like we do. And a lot of times people will just sell stuff in the street. Just you'll have this random person just set up and start cooking some meat, and people, to Colombians is normal, but their bodies adjust to it. But for Americans, Europeans probably wouldn't recommend eating from street vendors. eat at restaurants. Even at restaurants, you might get sick. And another thing is again about bargaining. Bargain. Um, you know, when you go to these restaurants, a lot of times they don't have prices. You know, and Colombians just I don't know. I don't know why Colombians don't ask for the price. Maybe this is an American thing, but I always ask for a price because there were times when I was with some Colombians, and we would go to restaurants, and at the end they'd be like, how much is it? And you just tell, like, they're just thinking off the top of their head. I remember one meal was like 9,000 pesos. I was like, wow, that's a lot. That's really a lot. Cheapest an average meal should cost 5,000 pesos. An average lunchtime meal. You know, so when I would go to restaurants to eat, I'd always ask them, what first off, what food do you have? A lot of times they only have like one thing, and I asked how much. I always say, ¿Cuánto cuesta el almuerzo? You know, and they'd be like, oh, 5,000, 6,000. But if someone had told me 9,000 pesos from the get-go, I would have walked out. But because you already bought the food, they can say that, and then you got a problem. Blah 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 blah. That's how people get ripped off. So ask about the price. I always ask about the prices. They don't know, most places they do not have a set price. They kind of just think it off the top of their head. So what else is there? I guess we'll get into safety thing a bit more, right? So people were getting robbed of their cell phones is a big thing, it's not unheard of people just walking up to you in the middle of the daytime, snatching phones and running off. It's not unheard of. So like this phone, this is only $50 US. This is cheap, but they'll rob you and they will stab you for it, right? I met a lot of when I was staying at hostels or whatever. I met a lot of foreigners who were like, yeah, they came up to me at knife point and robbed me. I met this one guy who was robbed in the Medellin subway. They just punched him and they just pickpocketed him, which, not for nothing, how could you get robbed in the subway? Unless you're going, and during the daytime at least, just don't be. This is another situation. Don't be an idiot. So I had a Colombian cell phone. Well, this is actually, I bought this in Ecuador, but nonetheless, cheap little dingy cell phone. They're not gonna rob you for this. For this, yes, they'll rob you and kill you. This, no, it's not worth their time. So if you do have to use a phone, and you only have a smartphone, you didn't think to buy a dumb phone, make sure you're in a crowded area. Watch what you're doing. Maybe sit in a corner so you see someone coming at you. And just try to get out of the phone. Try to use the phone as quick as possible. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Another thing. Well, like I said, don't travel out at night. A lot of times people are going to come up to you, try to sell you stuff. Anywhere for that matter. Just, I know it seems kind of rude, but just ignore them, or just shake your head. I always just shook my head and they would go away. A lot of times people would be like, yeah, no gracias, no, but they will harass you if you continue to talk with them. Only happened to me twice where I was really harassed. One was in the border of Ecuador and Colombia, and by a taxi cab driver who was like, where do you need to go? Where do you need to know? Where do you need to go? And I had been in Ecuador, and so Ecuadorians are not as aggressive as Colombians. So I told them, blah blah blah, I'm not going here, but no thanks. And he was really harassing me, and then I just ultimately ignored him, and he went away. The other time was in Barranquilla at the beach, which is one was trying to give me a massage, and I said, no, I don't have any money, blah blah blah. She like gave me a massage anyway. It was like, oh, do you, I'll give you more, 5,000 pesos. I was like, I told you I don't have any money, So yes, you gotta be kind of mean, I know it seems rude, but they're used to it. Um, so just be rude. That's really how it is. Um, because they will harass and rip you off. Um, Money. Only take out money, whatever you need. Don't uh, don't flash out a lot of money because, like I said, it's kind of like cell phones. They'll just run up to you and try to snatch it from you. Then you got a problem. If you gotta go to a bank, go during the daytime, obviously, and do it in preferably in a bank. There's Banco de Bogota, Bank Colombia. They're all over the place. Preferably do it there. Don't do it at nighttime. There's a lot of ATMs all over the place. Not necessarily in banks. I wouldn't do it these ATMs. They people watching you. They see you take out a lot of money. They're gonna follow you and stuff. I'm trying to remember if I was ever actually in Popayan. I was followed. But that was because I was with someone who was acting like an idiot. But we just lost them. We went into a bar and we lost them. So yeah. I mean, what else? I mean, what? Each city is different. I went to a lot of cities. Um, you know, Cali. I'll just talk about a few. Cali, most dangerous city in Colombia. Um, Murder capital of Colombia, basically. Wouldn't It's got a nice night scene. That's what I heard, but I never went out at night just because it was so bad. You hear so many things. It's just straight up shootings in salsa clubs is not unheard of. It's happened before. Um, and you'll see it in the streets too. There's a lot of homelessness. And it's obvious that a lot of these homeless people are drugged out, which you'll see homeless people all over. But in Cali, it was the only place I really noticed that they were like really using drugs. Like the homeless people were just drug addicts, straight up drug addicts. Um, which kind of makes sense if you look into the history, because Cali is kind of like the first major city, um, right by the border, and the border is not safe, and it's kind of the closest major city to like rebel held territory and everything. But that's like a whole other story. So Cali never. When I went to Cali, I really kept my watch. Um, what else is there? Bogota. I've actually never been to Bogota. I've only been to the airport. But everyone I talked to about Bogota just had so many bad things to say about it. Um, you know, and it just when I'd watch the news, it seemed like a mess. Granted, I've never been to Colombia. I know Bogota. I will go one day. Now that I know Colombia a lot better, I probably will go in the future. But I never hear anything good about it. Sure, there's a lot to do, but it just seems like more trouble than it's worth, really. I mean, Medellin is just as nice and it's way safer. Um, what else is there? Blah 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 blah. Well, okay, so I guess I'll touch on it. A lot of people, Colombian people are known for their beauty. Being very attractive people. Colombians are very attractive. And it's gonna be tempting, but don't do it, man. Don't you can see a lot of Colombian girls and Colombian, even women too, Colombian guys. But don't do it, man. Don't do it. It's more trouble than it's worth. The only Colombian girls that are gonna talk to you are the ones that are A, trying to rob you, or B, trying to get pregnant so they can get their green card to the United States. Trust me, I've seen it. Okay? Um, and girls, kind of the same situation. I'm not gonna lie. I was to these foreigners. I was Colombian. Obviously to Colombians I'm not Colombian, but to these foreigners, like, hey, you're Colombian, and I was treated preferably, and I kind of took advantage of the situations just to not go too into detail. And if I was a Colombian, I would have definitely taken a lot more advantage of that. And just because they're so attractive. But it's just not worth it. It's really risky, and you're just gonna end up regretting it. I guarantee it. You're just gonna end up regretting it. Um, just if you want to hook up in the hostels with foreigners, fellow foreigners. Um, you know, and that's the safest bet. To be honest with you, don't waste your time. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. Um, what else? I guess to talk about the rebels. The rebels, you don't really see the rebels. Yeah, they're there. I did travel I did briefly travel in like FARC held territory, I guess, for a little bit, but I didn't really see them. Um, you know, they kind of just hide out in the jungles, which don't go to don't the southern parts of Colombia are a bit not safe. Um, you'll see the Colombian army. The Colombian army is in most major areas, but they are heavily in the southern parts. Don't go to Department of Amazonas. I actually remember I saw a commercial in Colombia like tourism, come to Amazon. Don't do it. It's way too risky. They they say they don't kidnap people anymore, but they do. And you hear about attacks all the time because attacks still happen. It's still Colombia's in all it looks like a normal place, but it's in a civil war, in more or less. It's still in a civil war, just it's not in a small scale, which makes it a very interesting situation that the country has become so modernized despite all the violence that has happened with it. So don't go to the southern parts if you can avoid if you can avoid it. Um, a lot of times, don't people are talking about how Colombians are friendly. I don't know about that. A lot of times it just seemed like they were trying to, you know, get money out of you. That's what I feel like the situation is. They'll even offer to take you there or invite you to your house or invite you to their house. Don't do it. Don't be an idiot. Because again, that goes into the whole Colombian beautiful women thing. Is that's how they'll rob you. You go to their house, boom, boom, boom. There's a bunch of guys there. What are you gonna do? You know, if you take them, if they offer to take you on their car, don't do it. Sometimes they may walk with you if you ask for directions, but then you don't know where you're going, and then you're in some place and they'll rob you. Don't do it. Just if you have to ask for directions, just ask for directions. Don't let them take you to where you're going. Okay, unless it's extremely safe area, unless you are in an extremely safe area, don't do it. And what else? What else is there? I think that's most of what I wanted to cover. Colombia is not. I don't want to bash it, but these videos, the other videos, they're just not really accurate portrayal. And I met a lot of people at the hostels I stayed at who'd been robbed just because they were just complete idiots. And like I said, I guess I'll just end this video on talking about like the people I met who had been robbed. Um, well, like I said, I lost $2.50. I got overcharged $2.50. That's a minor thing. Mentioned the guy in Medellin who got robbed in the subway. Medellin's subway gets really packed depending on the time of day. Ridiculously packed. Like you can't even get in. Remember the first time I used it, I actually could not get into the first one because I just did not expect it to be so crowded. And then the next one, I just kind of jammed my way in there. So you're neck and neck, and it's easy. It's really easy because you're so packed around people, and hands tend to reach. But in that guy's case, he got punched, which I was just like, wow, man, what were you doing? That didn't even happen in the subway, but it happens. Another person I met actually got stabbed in Bogota. He was smoking a cigarette outside of his hostel, and something about one thing about the hostel area, just like this one area in Bogota apparently, where there's all these hostels, and and a lot of people go there just because there's so many foreigners, and a lot of robbers will go there trying to rob people. So in this guy's case, he was smoking a cigarette at night, right outside his door. Some guy came up to him with his knife and was like, "Here, give me your cell phone, give me your money, whatever, whatever." And he actually got stabbed for it. Another one was in Popayan, where a girl was using her phone, using her iPhone, talking on the phone, just being obvious. Walking back to wherever she was staying, and people just came up to her. Two guys just came up to her and said, "Give me your cell phone." Well, she gave it to them, and they ran off. And I mean, just be careful. That's it. Colombia. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to badmouth Colombia. It's a really nice place. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It is so beautiful. I miss it. I'm hoping to go back pretty soon. But it is one of those places where you do have to pay attention to what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just gonna get screwed over big time. So that's it. I know I kind of made this video very long, but I really wanted to cover most of the major things. I didn't even cover everything I wanted to. I was gonna go over like every major city, but I've been to, but that would just be too long. So thanks for watching this video, guys, and visit Colombia.